We'll get started here in a moment. Just want to do a quick video and sound check. Awesome. Looks good, sounds good. Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Let's do a Bitcoin video. Hope you are all doing well. It's been a minute since we've done our last live stream. Charles, hello. Good seeing you, man. Here we are going to talk about Bitcoin and all the things going on today, as well as some different perspectives I've seen out there. And so let's just get into it. As far as fear and greed, one of the things that I've been talking about is how we have this 2022 comparison where Bitcoin bottomed out in extreme fear after its 4-year cycle top, got into neutrality territory, and then bottomed out again. We saw a similar move in 2022 after the 4-year cycle, a little bit of a relief, and then back down. So if you're wondering what that looked like in June of 22, let's go back to that time. And so that was right here. This was May to June. That's where we bottomed it out. In a similar move after that 4-year cycle, hit the 100, stalled at the 50, ascending channel from a downward move, and then we crashed down. The 200 barely held up back there. So we've seen something similar. 4-year cycle top, down to the 100, barely tested the 50, and now you see these candle bodies there eating through down here at the 100. So it is possible we go lower. Charles, good to be back to hear about Bitcoin and Tesla, please. We'll get to Tesla. One of the things to watch for here for Bitcoin, let's go through a little bit of crypto stuff first, is we have this low here at around 80 and a half. If that gets taken out, that's looking pretty suspect. Also, again, we had this ascending channel from a downward move, and we retested that channel and the 20, the lowest moving average as support, and now we're going, or as resistance, I shall say, and now we're going down. As far as the liquidation heat map, we are all the way zoomed out. Now, something of note, where all the shorts were stacked up, as soon as the price took out the shorts here at around 97, 98K, also we saw Bitcoin come down and take out all these longs that came in. So I do wonder, could this be a potential area for a bottom? Now that the longs are taken out, the next area is right there at the 70K range. That's where we have all this price structure in the past as well. Let's zoom out to the weekly again. 70K right here, the 200-week moving average, and also the former all-time high here at around 70K as well. And do keep in mind that when Bitcoin bottomed here in late 2022, this was close to the former all-time high in 2017. So again, 4-year cycle 2017, topped at around 20K, came down, topped around 70K, came down close to that high. Yes, it went a little lower. We had the Black Swan event, Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, all that nonsense. So I do wonder, can the low be around where that former high is, or can it go a little bit lower? Some people are calling for 50K, 40K. I don't believe that's going to come into play. Another thing to keep in mind, this 20-month moving average, the candle body is starting to eat through that. So that does have me concerned. The 50-month moving average is at around 66K. Now, a couple indicators I am really watching like a hawk is Bitcoin Hunter and Bitcoin production costs. So when we take a look at these, they've been pretty good at calling or being close to local bottoms in the past. This is 2013. You can see Bitcoin Hunter on the monthly here. Whenever we are in the production cost and it's shaded red, good area to look at going long or just scaling in. Same thing post 2017. Got here. This was the COVID bottom. So it wasn't the first bottom, it was the second bottom that Bitcoin Hunter took. This was, of course, both. And by the way, the reason I think we get deeper into these areas is, one of the things we talk about all the time with the Bitcoin rainbow chart. As we go on further through time, we are going to go further in this x-axis of time. The y-axis is log scale, and the rainbow chart flattens out. So it is more vertical early, and it's more horizontal later. That's one of the reasons I talk about these cycles being extended longer than people think. So I look at, I'm, as far as I know, one of the only crypto channels that talks about the money flow cycle and not just the 4 year cycle. So the money flow cycle, we are in phase two East season. Is there a 4 year cycle phenomena? Yes, there is. But that doesn't line up with the money cycle anymore as far as the effects of looser monetary, inflationary monetary policy. I think a lot of times people are obsessed with the 4 year cycle because in 2017 we saw those tops go together. We had the money flow cycle and the 4 year cycle coincide. Here was alt season. But then in 2021, it got a little messy. We had QE early. Here was where the money flow cycle peaked, but the 4 year cycle was later on. Again, 4 year cycle still holds true, but the overall cycle top was before the halving. So for this cycle, I've noted that yes, we had the 4 year cycle, but we have not had the money flow cycle peak yet. Again, we are in phase two. QE just restarted. So I am looking at a money flow cycle top being more right translated than it has before. Maybe it'll be closer to the halving. We will see. As far as almanac perspective, something important I think to keep in mind is this phenomenon we see with whenever later in the year. Again, this is correlative data, so to me it's just a data point. Don't write home about this, but it is a nice coincidence when we have this very negative November to December. That's when we have had those bottoms. But then the start of the next year tends to be pretty positive, or even that January. Now, this January, it's more than likely going to be negative again, if I had to guess. So, unless all of a sudden something pops out of nowhere. So, do keep that in mind that the last time we had this was the 28 comparisons as far as your average midterm year return. Yes, there's chop, but we might see sort of a local top in May, April, unexpectedly. Now, we have been talking about the second term presidential cycle has better returns on average. And first 5 trading days were good. So overall, that tends to be good for the rest of the year. So yeah, place your bets as far as, are we going to get the average midterm election year sort of style market, or are we going to get something better than that? We will see. I don't want to keep our friend waiting here on some Tesla analysis. I did do a stock video. It is uploading, but let's just go through Tesla real quick. If you have any requests, comment them below. We'll hop over, take a look at those, and then get back to crypto. So Tesla, let's go over to the weekly. We never got a full candle body close above its former all-time high. So to me, that's a fake out. Now, I do like how it's riding the 20, but can it hold support here at 409 there at the 786? And if we take a look at one of our indicators, MACD still negative, still drawing down. We don't see any sort of positivity. Hopefully everything's still 5 by 5 here. Let me double check. All right, that looks good. Sorry about that little internet glitch there. Tesla changing its outlook on car production to robot production. I'm curious what that'll look like because, we just saw Microsoft. By the way, I know we were just talking about Tesla. Microsoft just took a big hit. Earnings were fine, but I guess people didn't like that they're investing a lot into AI data center stuff, or so much into it. It wasn't a problem before. I don't know if maybe the market's just a bit overextended. It's a standard pullback and people are looking for a narrative. But we also saw this for Meta before as well. Meta was very much investing a lot of R&D money into the metaverse, and it was all down here, and people were very bearish on Meta. So if we get any of these narratives from Microsoft, Meta, any of these mag stocks about, they're putting all this money into new stuff and we're unsure about it, and we see the stock tank, guys, in my opinion, I think those are good long-term areas to scale in. Of course, you want to see structure, support. I would have loved buying Meta here, even though it fell lower. But I'm always of the mindset you try to get a bucket of bottoms. You're not always going to know where the very bottom is as well. So let's get back into Bitcoin. We did talk about the production costs. We talked about the former all-time high being a potential top. By the way, let me just get my phone comments up here real quick. It went away for a second. Let me get that up. All right. Here we go. I have on my phone your comments. I just need to refresh it so I can see everyone. But anyways, Charles, hope you're doing well. We talked about the production costs, the 200, the former all-time high. I think it's very likely, very plausible, probable. This could be an area we could see a potential top for Bitcoin. Again, let's throw those on there. Here's the weekly production cost, by the way. So this can call in a bull market where some of those bottoms are, but that's resistance as far as I'm concerned right now. That production cost is between the 50 and the 100, or sorry, the Bitcoin Hunter is, and the production costs, that would be starting out at 74K. So again, if Bitcoin gets anywhere in this range, I am really looking at scaling in to some of my favorite crypto assets. Even at max bearishness, I think this is where it could be. So this is right now at 53K. It'll continue to climb and run into this. And of course, production costs, 65K, that's an area to watch for. If we go back to the liquidation heat map, this set of longs right here is at around 73K. And this next area, 64K, 65K. So we just talked about that. So 70K here, 65K down here. We do have long support down there. So yeah, I would definitely be watching for those areas. 65K, maybe the most likely, in my opinion. But yeah, right now things are bearish, make no mistake. But I am excited to see, where could we get some great value for crypto as things turn around. One of the things I've seen a lot of recently on Twitter, and I talked about this in the stock video that is uploading right now, is I've seen a lot of comparisons about the stock market compared to gold and Bitcoin compared to gold. And people are trying to find where the market bottom is by going through those comparisons. So when we take a look at this, let's zoom. Maybe we need a moving average. Let's do that. When we take a look at Bitcoin as comparison for gold, we can see that there was a top in December 24 and another top in August, but you can see nothing here in October. It is just coming down. Now, the last time that Bitcoin gold made a bottom, look at this, at the 100-week moving average in December 22. It is right at the 100 again. Now, remember what we talked about for the rainbow chart. We get more horizontal over time, less vertical. Okay, so a couple cycles ago, after 2017, it bottomed at the 50. Last cycle, it was 100. Maybe this cycle, it'll be the 200, somewhere down here. So something to watch for. I think with as much as gold is ripping, I do think these are good charts to watch or good indicators to see how is an asset compared against its value with gold. So this is on the monthly time frame. I'm curious, do any major indicators show us that, okay, the stochastic is just starting to bottom out, but you can see that by the time it flips up, we need more confirmation. This was 2019. So again, we don't have the blue above the orange or into the shaded area yet. So yeah, this thing is just starting to bottom out. This would mean, for all likelihood, that it's another few more months of bearishness. But again, I think these would be good areas to watch. And again, look for Bitcoin gold to maybe get lower. And, by the amount of time that's passed, I would guess that the 200 will spawn in soon. I do wonder, can I force a 200 moving average on here? Here's a 200-week heat map. All right, well, that indicator sucks. I don't know why I have that one. Maybe it's good for something else. 200 EMA. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think maybe the Aurora Super Guppy. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to get off of it. But anyways, the 200, it's probably somewhere down here. I would look for that. Noe Jimsy, always good to see you. And I always feel bad that, I just worry I'm butchering your name. So I'm sorry. If you want to phonetically put your name in the comments below, I can quit sounding like an idiot. Nice to hear you again. Weekly Gaussian channel not looking nice. Let's go over to the Gaussian channel. That is one. I don't know if I have the Gaussian channel. I do see people look at it, but Yeah, I think I looked for the Gaussian channel once and I was screwing it up. Gauss. Here's the Gaussian channel. It's got to be this one. It's the most popular. Let's star it. Hopefully, I am correct on this. All right, that's the monthly. You said weekly. Let's go to the. Oh yeah. So this is red, but albeit all because it's red and turning down doesn't always mean it's bad. So when it does turn red, okay, 2017 for comparison's sake. As soon as it turned red, we were pretty much bottoming. And 2019, when it was red, we already bottomed. Now, last cycle, as it turned red, um, we still had a little lower to go, but then we were there. And so, for comparative sake, again, this is Bitcoin Gold. For comparison's sake, maybe we don't have too much longer to go. Maybe it's only a few months. My name is Balut, man, or is it Balutman? Harder to spell. Haha, you say all right. All right, I appreciate that. This is Bitcoin Gold. Bitcoin Gold's good to look at. But yeah, look at this. As soon as it turns red, we're already pretty much bottoming. And if you bought Bitcoin here at 20K thinking that was the bottom, I don't blame you. Even though we had the FTX crash, like who gives a crap whether you got 15K, 20K, you get the bucket of bottoms. And here again, as it started out, I'm seeing the internet be choppy, by the way. I'm sorry about that. Let me move my computer just a little closer to the router by about a foot. Hopefully that'll do some magic for us. All right, here we go. Yeah, there's some new construction around my house, a couple blocks away, where they're building newer houses, and it's screwed with the internet here or there. So I do apologize. But yeah, they're putting in another little mini subdivision, and it's just been messing with things. So I do apologize for any choppiness. Anyways, when this Gaussian channel has turned red, it hasn't been so bad. And let's see here. As soon as it turns red, I screwed that up. I want to get when it just turns red. Just turns red to the bottom. 40 days. Okay. We're on the weekly. Here, let's see, from red, I mean, we were very close. But this ultimate bottom, 160 days, so yeah, right now it looks like it's going to turn red soon. It hasn't yet. But if it does turn red, maybe it doesn't take too long. That's something I'd look for. But yeah, when we get under that Gaussian channel, again, I think that 70K area ish is an area to watch. So yeah, let's go back to here. All right, let's take off the Gaussian channel. And yeah, I did want to go back to the Bitcoin gold comparison. There's something else I wanted to look at with you guys. All right, I think it was just some different indicators. So here we're on the weekly. Let's go over to the monthly, and let's just take a look at some of our classic indicators. Again, I think getting underneath here for the Bitcoin gold comparison, maybe to a 200 moving average would be good. I still believe Bitcoin could bottom around 62K. Yeah. There's a lot of people talking about 40K. I'm not there. I'm not looking for 40K. I am looking at the high 60s. Or 70K, somewhere around there. If Bitcoin continues to fall through these moving averages I just showed you, the major ones, the 20-month, the 100-week, you look at those next areas of support, it's around 70K. When it gets there to the next support and falls, gets support, the next green candle, I am scaling in hard. Full well knowing we might see another little mini crash, and that's fine. That's fine by me. But that 70K area, the next buy signal is one I am not going to miss. Let's take a look at some indicators. We took a look at stochastic. I want to take a look at RSI. RSI, I mean, it's as low as it's ever been on the monthly, the Bitcoin gold comparison. So, it does need to move up towards that moving average. And by the time it does, you can see it can level out a little bit. So maybe we're looking for more structure. And as far as the MACD goes, here we go. MACD, yeah, still negative on the monthly, but this is very bottomed out or is trying to bottom out. Do know that as this thing got very bottomed out, for all comparisons being equal here, it did have one more flush lower. This is the Bitcoin gold chart we're looking at now. So let's go over to just straight up Bitcoin. Last couple times, it can get a little bit deeper. This MACD looks awful, by the way. However, we can see that this is in an ascending trend. So is it going to bottom out somewhere over here? We'll see. As far as one of the indicators I really like is this monthly stochastic. This has been great at calling the bottom. So when this thing starts to curl up, blue above orange, and get into that shaded area, even though you may not get the very bottom, when we get bottomed out with the stochastic, okay, bottomed out, and we are on our way to the bottom, but when this flattens out, I think that would be a very good area. Again, this may be in April or May. That'd be a very good area to look for potential bottoming. So I think I talked about this last week. This is just my personal opinion. It's loosely based on all the data out there, but this is going to sound like a very bad prediction, and that's fine. But this is just my outlook. I know a lot of people are looking for an October bottom, the classic 4-year cyclist people. They say, you know what? When we top in a November or whatever, we tend to bottom a year later. All right, cool, fine. We see these tops and bottoms. And if we go over to our Bitcoin chart, we could see top November, December, bottom a year later. Okay, November, December. I'm curious for this one. That was June, July. This one was almost a year. And then, of course, top here, November, bottom, November. All right, top October. People are saying bottom October. And that's a nice correlation. And in my mind, I give that a 25% likelihood, or maybe a 30%. Let me say 30%. I give a 20% likelihood we could see a bottom in February to March, somewhere in there. Okay, a 20% likelihood. I do think it's possible we could see a bottom sooner than people expect. So that's 30% to October of 26. I think the 4-year cycle perspective is valid. I give a 20, guys. We'll wait for this to come back. I want to see that. All right, the buffering's gone away. Maybe I'll do a shorter live stream. I do apologize for the internet issues. Like I said, construction going on. But yeah, as I was saying, in my opinion, 20% probability of a bottom, February to March, 50% somewhere around May to June, and then 30% October later this year. So that's how I am looking at things. Let's get into some of the other charts. And with the internet being a little choppy, I don't want to frustrate you all too much. So we'll just run through these. If you have any comments or thoughts or cryptos you want me to take a quick look at, comment them below. But maybe I'll just sort of wrap this up. Bitcoin dominance last cycle. This percent of money in Bitcoin from the overall crypto market topped out around the 50-month moving average. This time around the 100. It is on that 20-month moving average. Stochastic is bottomed out. If we go over to the weekly, we can see that we're on our way to a top. And so I keep wondering, is Bitcoin dominance going to break through this 50-week moving average or eventually roll down? Going back to what I talked about in the beginning of this video, the money flow cycle is not the 4-year cycle. And every cycle that is going to diverge a bit more. And so I am looking at, again, more of a right translated style alt season this time around. That it'll take longer, but it does not have to coincide with the 4-year cycle. MACD overall is negative. Yes, it can be positive, but overall it's pulling in the negative direction. That is a good thing. Let's see. Nwajimzi, do you think this 2.5-year Bitcoin bull run is just a liquidity run and the crypto run has not even started yet, especially for others? And by others, I assume you mean this. Yes. I don't know if I would fully call it a liquidity run. That's interesting. That is interesting. You put it in that lens. I'm chewing on that. I think I need to process that for a little bit. Is just a I don't think it's just a liquidity run. Is my gut reaction. Um, but yeah, but but to your point, yes. I mean, I do believe, and the charts still show this. We are in the money flow cycle in phase two. Okay, the charts do not disagree. Bitcoin dominance, for all we know, has topped. Right. And now, if it makes a newer top, all right, that's going to be different. But again, we watch the MACD, the RSI, is the overall strength indicators still pulling to the downside. But when we take a look at ETH Bitcoin, and the comparisons with loose monetary policy, inflationary monetary policy, I mean, last time it bottomed together, this time we've been front running it. And so I do think this is being stretch sessionary as people want. It is going to take time, but I'm not looking for, a 60% great financial crisis 2.0 like so many people are talking about. People, all the fear mongering out there. The dollar is dead. That's why gold's going up. I think it's a perfect storm for gold. There was a ton of money printing going on, so that devalues the dollar. There's a flight to gold. Okay. From that happening, the U.S. was starting to accumulate and hoard gold and silver very fast after that. And then China started doing that too. So there's a little bit of a currency war going on. And you have the metalverse, or you have metals being used for all the AI data center production. And metals are very important there. I think it is the perfect storm of post-COVID printing, devaluation of currency, sort of a currency war thing going on between U.S. and China, and the AI stuff. I think all that is why gold and silver are pumping, but I don't think that it's the end of the world and Rome is falling and all this crap that these fear mongers say. So, could things be recessionary and bearish? Sure, but yeah, my mindset hasn't changed at all. I don't think it's great financial crisis 2.0. Here we have the total 3 market cap at the 100. We've been talking about this. If we see a 70K Bitcoin, a 65K Bitcoin, excuse me, watch for this golden pocket and this 200-week moving average. I think those will be important areas to look for a potential altcoin play. If this happens, altcoins may be bottoming out around that area, and you can scale in some of your favorite altcoins. Right there, we talked about ETH Bitcoin. Let's go to our large cap indicator. This one's been bearish for a bit. I am looking for this to fall down here. And by the way, this total 3 ES minus others divided by Bitcoin, what this is a chart putting together a bucket of Binance, XRP, Solana, Tron, Doge, and Cardano, subtracting the stable coins. Okay, total 3, everything outside of Bitcoin and ETH. ES, excluding stables, minus others, you get rid of everything outside the top 10, divided by Bitcoin. We are on this massive wedge. Now, some of these coins or cryptos weren't as good last cycle or the cycle before. But yeah, this comes to a head, funny enough, November later this year. So what's going to happen in November? We'll see. Talked about others. This one's still holding. But it could possibly go down to this wick area, the 236. Tether dominance. I want to take a look at Tether. Let's take this off vlog. Yeah, the indicators for this, I think it's looking pretty strong. That's the RSI. All right, I want to see this on the monthly. Yeah, the monthly's pretty bullish right there. Let's take a look at, had an ad come up on my end. Let's take a look at MACD. And yeah, MACD is, to me, this says, if stablecoin dominance is positive, that's negative for crypto. Watch this 7.5 area. That could be a potential area for a top. Again, when Tether dominance is topping, that's when Bitcoin is bottoming. And if you don't know what Tether means, that means 6.6% of all money is in a stable coin. A stable coin that always has a value of $1. It's the third largest crypto, market cap of 186 billion. We could add in USDC and others, make that market cap 250 billion, whatever. But what that means is people want to retain their Satoshi value. And instead of holding on to Bitcoin when it might lose 10 to 15% more of its value on the next move down, they say, you know what, I'll convert it to Tether, keep my Satoshi value. Once Bitcoin drops, convert it back to Bitcoin. That's what some people do. So do keep that in mind. That's the allure of Bitcoin is, it's non-inflationary. And the allure of altcoins is that, it's like a slot machine. So if you get in on those and you're around during the times where, we have Bitcoin dominance drop off, you can see your altcoins explode if you pick the right ones, but it is a very risky game to play. We haven't talked about alts for a while just because the market has sucked. Funny enough, taking a look at Chainlink, this we've had all these head and shoulders. Is this kind of playing out? Maybe I need to do an altcoin video just because altcoins have sucked so much. So you say financial crisis can occur with nice bubbles all around. They reinforce each other. So you say financial crisis can occur with the nice bubbles all around. Sorry, asking too much. Like to hear your thoughts. No, it's all good. Here's the thing that I'm digesting, and I don't claim to know the right perfect answer. We are in a bubble. The Shiller P ratio says that. And we also have gold through the roof. And so, how much of it, I want to word this well, how much of the market's value is elevated by a devalued dollar? Okay. If our dollars are worth less and the market's just maintaining its current price, it's sort of in my opinion, a trick on what we are seeing, how we're valuing the market. So for example, the best way for me to do this, probably just show this. Everyone's been talking about this the last week, it seems, on Twitter. You take a look at the S&P 500, great. But then they say, you know what, divide this by gold and take a look at this. And we see something different. Okay. They're like, the dollar is cheap. And so the S&P 500 is still going up. But when we take a look at gold, the S&P 500 kind of sucks. And we've broken through the support of the COVID bottom. Interesting. I did this in the stock video I put out earlier. Here's the 382. And when we're under the 382, we can always go lower. So it is interesting, from the high to the low. This was the .com bubble. High to low, we got into the golden pocket and are coming down again. I mean, talk about it, that's just crazy to me. So high to low, we retested that area. It's a good area of resistance. Yet again, by the way, this was 07. Okay. We were just up here in December of 24. And so I say this because our values of our dollars compared to gold have gone way down. And so even though things look bullish, how bullish are they really? If you were to take a look at this, let's just add on the S&P 500 to this. Where are these bottoms? Okay, after we fall down, form a base. Okay, after we finally fall down, form a base. Okay, some of these major bottoms, you can see this does pretty well at showing. Now, the market's still way up, but, how much of it is, truly what we assume its value is based on dollars versus based on gold. So, when I see this, I want to zoom way out. I want to add in a monthly buy signal. That's what I want to do. And then, here was a buy signal, but it wasn't the very bottom. Here was the buy signal right here. Okay. Again, this is GFC. After we fell down, there were a couple buy signals in there monthly. Okay. It's holding on, but we did have a lower low. So I'd say, that one should have been caught. Very next buy signal, local buy signal. Okay. So when we get these buy signals overall after big drops, you do have to consider, here, this thing's falling. So I do wonder, are we going to see the S&P and gold go down here? I hope that makes sense how I worded that. Again, our dollars are becoming worth less, especially compared to gold. And we have the perfect storm for gold. Metals are being used for AI data center production. AI. It's the bubble. Okay. Our dollars are worth way less because all the money printing that the Fed did for COVID. We're still dealing with the effects from that. Okay. And the US and China, they've been hoarding gold since this time and silver. Okay. So the metals are important for AI. It's important for currency. Yeah. I hope a lot of that makes sense. But I think instead of just looking at dollars, we have to look at the gold valuation. I do love the perspective, so shout out to all the people on Twitter. A lot of people are talking about this. I do think that's an important perspective to have moving forward. It's maybe going to be one of those charts with gold going up so much. One of those charts that do look for those comparisons. By the way, I don't think my stock video is uploaded yet, but just kind of a fun thing to look at for gold. I want to add in a couple things. The pi cycle. I thought this was interesting. We're on the monthly here. Gold, last time it hit the pi cycle was in 1980. Okay. And the market had a little bit higher to go, but then it really bottomed out, with gold here. And we've talked about how gold topping out sometimes rotates in the crypto. But again, if our dollars are already low, maybe things are bottoming sort of behind the scenes. Hit the pi cycle, hit the Mayer support band here. Look where the pi cycle and the Mayer multiple band are at, like 6,500. Does gold, gold's bullish and people are like, where's it going to top? Is it going to top around 6,500? Could it top around 10K? Can you imagine 10K gold? I do like this area of mid 6,000s as a potential topping area. So I do think there's more steam left in this train, but yeah, we'll see. It's just, that was interesting to me, looking at some of these macro indicators where we might see gold pop out at. Anyways, I apologize for the choppy internet subdivision being built. Didn't realize it's going to be this bad today. I saw some buffering. I appreciate all of you being here. We have 9 people here. Good live stream. Good comments. Before I go, does anyone have any questions, thoughts, altcoins you would like my 2 cents on? I'll give you all a minute to type anything below. Otherwise, I'll be wrapping this up shortly. But again, just kind of the theme of today's video, taking a look at the stock market and gold, Bitcoin and gold. Let's turn off these indicators. We don't need that. And yeah, I do wonder where we could see some sort of a macro bottom. So gonna give it just a minute here and we'll see. Let's see. Thanks, man. Always appreciate it. You're welcome. Let's see. Thanks for the info. Doge, if you have time. Charles, I always have time for you, bud. Let's get to Doge. Be happy to. Let's see. Doge. Here's on the monthly. That isn't good. Let's run through a number of these. Monthly, yeah, that's bearish on the monthly. Did break that trend line support. We do have that 236 that we saw that Binance scam wick go to. That's at 9 cents. We talked about this one as a candidate as far as all the top 10 cryptos. This one I was the most cautious of because talked about how in 2017 to 2021, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, they only came back to around their 618, 786 during the next bull run. Doge was a top candidate of mine to do the very same thing. And that's what it did. It got to 41 cents. That was the top. That sucks. Sorry about that. I have some Doge as well that I got in over here. And so, yeah, Doge, I think this thing is still, it's very negative all around. We're about to get a negative bearish cross. The death cross is the 50 under the 200. We're not there yet, but the 50 and the 100, the 20 and the 200 are about to have negative crosses as well. Let's take a look at some other indicators. Let's go to stochastic, coming back down. Yeah, this thing looks like it still wants to bottom. And again, take a look at Bitcoin. When Bitcoin's truly bottoming out, what's Doge doing at that time? Let's go to RSI. Yeah, not so great. Monthly, eh, very separated. Um, but you know what I look for, just for comparison, you see the price moving up. We see a very oversold RSI, and we see bullishness. No bullish divergence. We didn't need it. It's just bullish. Higher price, higher RSI. But once this gets into this oversold territory, if we're here, I would have a hard time not considering Doge. So do take a look at that, as well as the MACD. I think we can keep some of these things simple, especially when it comes to wherever Bitcoin's bottoming. So MACD is still negative monthly. Yeah, very much negative. So when this started to turn light red, that was better confirmation. So you can look for light red MACD on the monthly. So, do wait for confirmation of Bitcoin bottoming. Again, the Bitcoin gold comparison, where I think, this 70K, high 60K looks very likely. Looks very likely to me. That is what I'm looking for. We are getting more into that teal zone. And for all the hate the rainbow chart gets, I mean, to me, it looks like these bands are honored pretty well. So, it's a data point. We throw it in with the others. But yeah, that teal area, I'm watching that. I'm watching that very closely. So, anyways, I think we'll leave it there. Charles, Nued Jimsy, thank you for your comments. Hope y'all are doing well. Survive. And, when the market is bearish, now's the time to really enact your strategy. Buying during the bearish times on good assets are how you make money during the bullish euphoric times. I preach this at the start of every video. Be greedy when others are fearful. Fear is very much back in the market. I do think there could be lower to go. This could be 20% likely possibility that we bottom here, but I think most likely we bottom here, and then there is somewhat of a chance we get in the high 50s, low 60s. We'll see. But anyways, thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful Friday and a fantastic weekend. Take care. I know I'm still live, if any of you are still here. Um, yeah, the reverse Cutler's RSI indicator on the monthly. Look where that's bottomed out. We're on our way there. Might be one to watch. But could call that bottom around that 200-week moving average for the Bitcoin gold chart. And that might be where we find our bottom. That'd be nice. Called it the last two times. So, yeah, I think that's part of the likelihood of seeing a bottom in around May. That seems to line up with timing wise what I'm thinking. So, anyways.